Success isn't a finish line. It isn't a medal, a bank balance, or a title you hang on your office door. Success is a direction, a way of choosing to live your life every single day. And the truth is, most of us aren't failing because we don't have talent. We're failing because no one ever taught us the rules of how to use that talent. Think about it. We spend years in school learning math formulas and historical dates, yet we rarely learn how to persevere, how to stay disciplined, how to build meaningful relationships, and how to push through fear when everything in us wants to run the other way. Success is not reserved for the lucky. It belongs to those who understand the rules, apply them consistently, and choose growth over comfort. Today, I want to share with you 10 of the top rules. Rules that shape careers, transform lives, and help ordinary people do extraordinary things. Success always begins long before the world sees the results. It begins in that quiet space inside you where your purpose lives. That's the place most people ignore, not because they don't care, but because they've been taught to chase outcomes instead of meaning. We're taught to focus on grades, titles, promotions, and achievements. Yet the fuel that drives every great achievement isn't found in any of those things. It's found in the reason behind them. When you know why you're doing something, you tap into a level of energy, clarity, and resilience that most people never reach. Think about the difference between someone who's forcing themselves to get through a task and someone who's deeply connected to its purpose. One drains their energy just trying to start, the other seems to move effortlessly. The work might be the same, but the meaning behind it is completely different. Purpose turns effort into passion. It turns obstacles into opportunities. When you have a clear why, you stop running from challenges and start running toward growth. Consider an athlete waking up before sunrise. The alarm doesn't give them discipline. The promise they made to themselves, the vision of who they want to become, is what pulls them out of bed. Purpose is stronger than any excuse. And when your purpose becomes bigger than your comfort, you start to experience what real momentum feels like. There's a story about a young man who dreamed of becoming a pilot. He worked odd jobs for years, saving every spare dollar for flight school. He faced failures, financial struggles, and people telling him he was being unrealistic. But every time he thought about quitting, he remembered why he started. The feeling of being in the sky, the freedom, the responsibility, the dream he'd carried since childhood. That reason kept him going when logic said give up. Years later, when he finally earned his commercial pilot license, people called him lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. What they were really seeing was the power of a clear why. Every remarkable achievement has that same origin. Whether it's an inventor, an entrepreneur, a teacher, or a parent raising children with love in a chaotic world, purpose is the foundation of their strength. Purpose sharpens your focus. It helps you choose long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. It gives your sacrifices meaning, and meaning makes sacrifice bearable. But here's the part most people miss. Your why doesn't have to be dramatic or world-changing. It just has to be honest. Some people find their purpose in serving others. Some find it in building something from nothing. Some find it in growing, learning, and becoming more than they were yesterday. The size of the purpose doesn't matter. The sincerity of it does. The moment you connect your actions to your purpose, everything becomes clearer. Decisions become simpler. Distractions lose their power. Doubt starts to fade. And even fear, something we all wrestle with, begins to loosen its grip. Because when your why is strong enough, fear becomes a companion, not a barrier. You don't eliminate it. You simply walk forward with it. There's a study from a group of behavioral psychologists who examined people undergoing long-term high-pressure training programs. Military trainees, medical students, elite performers. The single strongest predictor of who succeeded wasn't talent or intelligence. It was clarity of purpose. Those who knew why they were there could endure the pressure. Those who didn't quit early. Purpose literally strengthens the mind against stress. If you look at your own life, you'll notice this pattern too. The times you stuck with something that mattered to you, even when it was difficult, were the times you were connected to your why. And the times you walked away were the moments your purpose wasn't clear. That isn't weakness. It's simply the way we're wired. We are built to endure, but only when the journey aligns with our meaning. There's a belief many people hold, often without realizing it, that success is built on motivation. That spark of energy, that rush of excitement, that moment of clarity when everything feels possible. And yes, motivation is wonderful. It makes us feel alive, inspired, unstoppable. But the truth most people never confront is that motivation is temporary. It's like a firework, bright, powerful, beautiful, and gone in seconds. What truly builds success isn't the strength of your motivation, but the consistency of your actions. It's the tiny, often unglamorous habits you repeat long after the motivation has faded. Think about the people who achieve extraordinary things, athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, leaders. They don't rely on feeling inspired every day. They rely on showing up day after day, even when it's boring, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one is watching and there is no applause waiting for them. What separates the extraordinary from the average isn't talent, it's discipline wrapped inside consistency. There's a story of a musician who practiced the violin every morning for 2 hours before school, not because she was the most gifted, but because she understood something at a young age. Consistency beats intensity. While others crammed for performances at the last minute, she quietly built mastery. By the time she reached adulthood, she wasn't just good, she was exceptional. People thought she was naturally gifted, but she knew the truth. Consistency had turned effort into excellence. Most people overestimate the power of one big push and underestimate the power of small, repeated actions. We tell ourselves, I'll start on Monday, or I'll work really hard this week, or I'll get it all done in one go. But consistency doesn't work like that. It's not about occasional sprints, it's about sustained movement. You can run as fast as you want for one day, but it won't change your life. Walk steadily for 100 days and everything begins to shift. The reason consistency matters so much is that it builds trust, first with yourself and then with the world. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you strengthen your sense of identity. You start believing in your ability to follow through. But every time you break a promise, even a minor one, you weaken that trust. Slowly, sometimes without noticing, you begin to doubt yourself. Consistency restores that trust. It turns self-belief from a motivational phrase into a lived reality. There's research from a group of behavioral scientists who studied habit loops, the pattern that turns actions into automatic behaviors. They discovered something powerful. The brain doesn't reward the intensity of an action nearly as much as the repetition of it. When you repeat a behavior regularly, your brain begins to adopt it as part of your identity. That's why someone who runs consistently eventually begins to think of themselves as a runner. Someone who reads consistently becomes a reader. Someone who writes consistently becomes a writer. Identity follows repetition, and success follows identity. Think about the last time you made progress on something meaningful. It probably wasn't because of one massive effort. It was because of a series of small steps, done consistently, until they added up to something bigger than you expected. Consistency breeds momentum, and momentum transforms mountains into stepping stones. The first step is always the hardest, not because the action is difficult, but because you're breaking old patterns. But once momentum catches you, the journey becomes smoother. You stop forcing yourself to move, and the movement begins to carry you. One of the greatest mistakes people make is waiting to feel like it. The truth is, you won't feel like it most days, and that's okay. You're not supposed to. Consistency isn't about feeling ready. It's about honoring the commitment you made long before your feelings got involved. Feelings fluctuate. Commitment doesn't have to. Look at anyone who has achieved something meaningful in their life. You'll notice a pattern. They kept going long after the excitement faded. They pushed through days of doubt, fatigue, boredom, frustration, not because they were superhuman, but because they understood that consistency is the difference between wishing and obtaining. We grow up believing that success comes from avoiding mistakes, from staying safe, from doing things the right way. But the truth is, nothing remarkable has ever been built by people who are afraid to fail. Failure isn't a detour on the path to success. It is the path. It's the training ground where resilience is built, creativity is sharpened, and character is strengthened. If we try to tiptoe through life hoping never to stumble, we never give ourselves the chance to rise. The most successful people you can think of aren't the ones who got it right on the first try. They're the ones who were willing to be wrong over and over again until the right answer finally revealed itself. Failure is never the end of the story. It's the beginning of understanding. There's a powerful story about a young inventor who kept submitting her designs to companies only to be rejected repeatedly. Each rejection letter felt like a punch to the gut. She questioned her abilities, her vision, even her worth. But one day she made a decision. Instead of seeing each rejection as a judgment of her talent, she would treat it as feedback. She would fail fast and then learn faster. Every no became fuel for the next attempt. Years later, her invention became a household product used by millions. When interviewed, she said something beautiful. My failures were not setbacks. They were breadcrumbs leading me to the solution. That's the mindset that separates dreamers from doers. We often think failure is a sign that we're not good enough. But failure is simply proof that we're trying something bigger than ourselves. Children understand this better than adults. Watch a child learning to walk. They fall hundreds of times, but not once do they think, maybe walking isn't for me. They don't attach shame to falling. They get up again because falling is part of learning. Yet somehow as we grow older, we start believing that falling is embarrassing, that mistakes define us, that failure means we should stop. But the truth is, failure is a sign of progress. There is fascinating research on students who were divided into two groups. One group was praised for being smart and the other was praised for their effort. When given a challenging task, the smart group avoided it. They didn't want to risk looking less intelligent. But the group praised for effort embraced the challenge and persisted through difficulty. The study showed something powerful. When we believe failure lowers our value, we avoid anything that risks it. But when we view failure as a natural part of growth, we welcome challenge. We become resilient. We become unstoppable. Think of the people who changed the world. Innovators, scientists, artists, leaders. They weren't successful because they were fearless. They were successful because they refused to let fear stop them. The airplane wasn't created on the first attempt. The light bulb didn't glow on the first try. Breakthroughs rarely happen without breakdowns. Every failure carries information, data, insight, direction. It's like trying keys on a lock. Each wrong key isn't a defeat, it's a clue that helps you discover the right one. Imagine how different your life could be if you stopped seeing failure as a threat and started seeing it as a teacher. What goals would you pursue? What risks would you take? What dreams would finally feel reachable? The truth is, failure only has power over us when we hide from it. When we embrace it, we turn fear into wisdom. The greatest danger in life is not failing. The greatest danger is avoiding failure so much that you avoid growth. People who fear failure stay small, not because they lack potential, but because they never give themselves the chance to expand it. Every person you admire has a history full of mistakes, wrong turns, false starts, and painful lessons. But they didn't stop. They kept learning, kept adjusting, kept improving. We rarely realize how deeply the people around us shape who we become. We like to believe our success is entirely our own doing, that our decisions, our habits, our mindset come solely from within. But human beings are social creatures. We absorb the attitudes, energy, values, and expectations of the people we spend the most time with. Whether we notice it or not, our circle becomes our environment, and our environment becomes our identity. And the truth is, you cannot rise to your highest potential while surrounding yourself with people who expect the bare minimum from themselves. Think about the last time you felt inspired just by being in someone's presence. Maybe it was a friend who had big dreams, a coworker with contagious optimism, or someone who pushed themselves just a little harder than most. Being around them made you want to rise too, didn't it? That isn't accidental. It is human nature. We elevate or lower our standards to match the group we feel connected to. This is why choosing your environment is one of the most important decisions you will ever make. There's a story about a young man who trained to run his first marathon. He started alone, motivated but inconsistent. Some days he pushed himself. Other days he skipped training because it felt too difficult. Then he joined a running group. They weren't extraordinary athletes, just ordinary people committed to the same goal, but everything changed. When he ran with them, he pushed harder. When he wanted to slow down, their pace pulled him forward. On days he didn't feel motivated, their presence became his fuel. And when he crossed the finish line months later, he realized something profound. He didn't achieve the goal alone. He achieved it because he surrounded himself with people who made the hard work feel possible. We underestimate how powerful social influence really is. A groundbreaking study from Harvard showed that emotions, happiness, sadness, even stress, spread through social networks like ripples in water. That means your friend's attitude can influence your mood, your thoughts, and even your confidence. If this is true for emotions, imagine how true it is for habits, ambition, and success. You become like the people you allow into your life, whether you intend to or not. But surrounding yourself with the right people isn't only about finding those who inspire you. It's also about creating distance from those who drain you. We all know someone who constantly complains, expects the worst, criticizes every idea, or believes success is only for other people. Being around them slowly chips away at your hope, your creativity, your courage. You don't even notice it happening at first. But over time, you adopt their limitations as your own. It's not that you stop dreaming, it's that you stop believing your dreams are possible. Choosing the right people doesn't mean choosing perfect people. It means choosing people who bring out the best in you, people who challenge you, support you, and remind you who you are when you forget, people who clap for your wins without jealousy and stand with you in your losses without judgment, people who push you forward instead of pulling you down, people whose presence makes you want to grow. There's a beautiful moment that happens when you finally find a circle that aligns with your values. You begin to dream bigger. You begin to feel braver. You begin to act with more confidence. not because you suddenly became stronger, but because you stopped walking alone. Growth becomes natural when you're surrounded by growth. Courage becomes easier when you're surrounded by courage. And success becomes more attainable when you're surrounded by people who believe it's not only possible, but expected. It takes courage to choose your circle intentionally. It requires honesty, boundaries, and sometimes letting go of people you've known for years. But you're not choosing who is better or worse. You're choosing who helps you become who you're meant to be. Every environment shapes you. Every relationship influences your direction. And the right people don't just change your life. They change your standards, your mindset, and your future. There comes a moment in every person's life when they stand at the edge of something new, an idea, an opportunity, a dream they've carried quietly for years. And instead of stepping forward, they freeze. Not because they don't want it, not because they're incapable, but because they're waiting to feel ready, waiting for fear to disappear, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect confidence, the perfect circumstances. And the tragedy is that most people wait so long for ready that they spend their lives standing still. Readiness is one of the greatest illusions we create for ourselves. It convinces us that certainty must come before action, that clarity must precede courage, that we must somehow earn the right to begin. But no one ever feels fully ready before doing something meaningful. No one feels prepared the first time they start a business, deliver a speech, pursue a dream, ask for an opportunity, or take on responsibility that stretches them beyond their comfort zone. Readiness is not a requirement. It's a result. It comes after you step forward, not before. There's a young woman who dreamed of starting her own bakery. She had talent, years of practice, skills refined through trial and error, and a love for baking that brought her joy every day. But she also had fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. She kept waiting for the perfect time after she saved more money, after she felt more confident, after she became good enough. One day, a mentor asked her, "What if the only thing missing isn't readiness? It's movement?" Those words stayed with her. Eventually, she took a small step, renting a small space, selling to a handful of customers, learning as she went. Today, her bakery has grown beyond what she once believed possible. Looking back, she admits she never felt ready, but she acted anyway. And that decision changed everything. Every meaningful journey begins with uncertainty. Every breakthrough begins with discomfort. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's choosing to move while fear is still present. If you wait for fear to disappear, you'll wait forever. Fear doesn't vanish with time. It weakens with movement. The more you act, the less power fear holds over you. There's research from behavioral psychologists showing that action reduces anxiety more than confidence does. That means confidence doesn't create action. Action creates confidence. Every small step forward rewires your brain to believe I can do this. Every tiny moment of progress builds trust in your ability to handle what comes next. You learn by doing, not by thinking. You grow by moving, not by planning. You become ready by stepping into the unknown, not by waiting for the unknown to become familiar. Think about children learning to swim. They don't read a dozen books, watch tutorials, or spend months analyzing the water. At some point, they get in the pool. They kick, they splash, they choke on water, they panic, and then they try again. Eventually, they learn to float, then move, then swim. They feel ready only after the doing, not before it. That's how growth works for all of us. Many people never chase their dreams not because they don't have talent, but because they've convinced themselves they need more time. But time doesn't create readiness. Experience does. You don't need every answer. You just need enough courage to take the first step. You don't need certainty. You need willingness. You don't need confidence. You need commitment. Life rewards the person who acts, not the one who hesitates. It rewards the person who tries, not the one who waits. The people who build extraordinary lives aren't fearless. They're simply unwilling to let fear make decisions for them. They step forward when others step back. They leap while others linger. They move even when their voice shakes, even when their heart races, even when doubt whispers in their ear. The truth is, the moment you take action, everything changes. Opportunities appear that you would have never seen from the sidelines. Strength emerges that you didn't know you had. Clarity unfolds step by step. And slowly, something incredible happens. You become the person you always hoped you could be, not because you finally felt ready, but because you finally moved. Success doesn't belong to those who have the most opportunity. It belongs to those who create it. Remember, know your why. Show up consistently. Treat failure as a teacher. Choose the right people. Take action before you feel ready. Follow these rules and success stops being a distant dream. It becomes your daily direction. And when direction becomes habit, success becomes inevitable.